Susie really enjoys her kids. She's has been a very social person, somewhat very limited now, but she loves getting out into the cultural activities and things that the culture provides. On a really good day for Susie, prior to all this, was pretty much going to work, being involved in her children's activities, socializing, being on the phone or visiting or that kind of thing. Being involved with the Indian community was really important. That was a large part of her identity. She was concerned about raising the boys with values that the culture provided. Being able to socialize with friends and cousins and so forth in that context was very important to her. Susie had a series of hospital admissions in the middle of 2011, May, June, and it got to the point where she had to be admitted for surgery. And for all of us and her as well, it was more of a procedural thing that needed to happen in order to make her better. We were aware of some complications, other than the fact of the location of the operation, etc. But the operation went on way beyond what we had scheduled for, which I believe was about 2.5 hours, and it was more than 4 hours. And of course, that raised concerns, and then there was a lot of concerns afterwards too. But we were expecting that she would just go back to normal after her normal recuperation period, and that would be that. But wasn't to be. Shortly after her recovery out of recovery room, she made the comment that she doesn't feel right, something's not right. And we kind of, I guess all of us just dismissed that as being normal after an operation, one that had gone longer than it had been scheduled for, and two, just regular pains and so forth. But obviously for her it meant a lot more, and we would have discovered that as time went on. I don't think at any time throughout the whole process, which really is now 5 years or so, has there been a real opportunity to really share or discuss all of the moment-by-moment issues, whether with the healthcare team or with the, you go through them, you believe in the professional doing their job, but there's very little communication really with the patient in terms of what has been done, what can be expected, and the person is not looked at as a whole. That's really what came out of this. Was if a specialist came in for a kidney issue, then he would be dealing with that and not looking at other things. I'm not saying that that's his job to look at other things, but when a person has multiple issues, as Susie certainly got her as a result of all these things, of her operation, then it would have been really great to have had a team approach to her well-being, to her care, and it certainly was not there. Because of her health, there's a certain degree of acuity to it. So if something does go wrong, she still has to use this system. But I bet she would want to avoid the system if there was any other way. There are ways of being, and especially as a woman coming from an Asian culture, there are roles that they play that are not as perhaps that people are used to dealing with. And although Susie was a New Zealander and spoke English really well, it doesn't take away from her cultural identity. When I was visiting Susie in the hospital during this period, there seemed to be some trepidation in just really saying what was really going on. Accessibility to staff was always a challenge. To the right staff also, that was another thing. And then you always felt really hurried. You knew that the doctor had 1,000 people to see, or the nurses were short-staffed or whatever. But yeah, you just never felt like it was just a moment to just sit and just discuss something. It was on the run. And other times when doctors visited and I wasn't there, and Susie was oftentimes not in the space, as it were, to really communicate her situation, what she might have said to me or what I've asked her to ask the doctor would be either forgotten or a vague memory of what was being said. And so there wasn't a really clear understanding, and Susie was oftentimes quite sedated or with drugs. On one or two occasions there was a particular doctor or a particular nurse would be excellent, and it would just be like, why can't we just have them all the time? But of course that doesn't work like that. The culture within the hospital that we experienced was such that there was a powerlessness on the part of the patient and the support people around that patient. And therefore what we could and couldn't say, and if we said something, perhaps the care might be compromised. Those things all fed into how we experienced the time in hospital. And she got to a point where she didn't want to go to the hospital no matter what, although there were times when there were multiple re-entries within a month, and it was just, some of it quite shocking. There did not appear to be any clear avenue for us to get our concerns heard, and then perhaps even acknowledged. We don't, for the times that we did try, we found a lot of dissatisfaction with the responses. Maybe that's just the way it is, but it makes you want to just not say anything. After 5.5 years of this journey, trust level is very low. We trust the specialists believing that they know what they're doing. And I trust that the individuals involved in the whole system do not have bad intentions. But I do not trust the system in terms of their culture of care. It's a sad indictment in a way, because we do have some of the best, technical advances in the world, but we don't have the heart that goes with it. There are times when Susie should definitely have contacted the system, regardless of her feelings about it. But she has been reluctant to do so. She's been really waiting either to a point where she can't bear it anymore. But had the system been more open, I think that would make it easier, but it hasn't worked for her. Another factor to consider is the impact that a family member's sickness or illness condition has on the rest of the family. And in my case, in some ways I'm very grateful to have gone through the process, because it's brought me closer to my sister. I've learned a whole lot about medical procedures that I had, not sure that it's added to my life in any way, but so I've learned a lot. But it's been an incredible inconvenience. I'm on call essentially 24/7, because it could be a text any time of day, any time of night, where she may have to go to hospital or this or that, and things that she would normally do in her life that she can't do anymore, that then fall on me as me as the caregiver, and that then limits what I can do with my life, and it has limited. While I've been happy to be there with all of that, it has impacted my life quite a lot. But I guess the one that it's really impacted is Susie. She doesn't have the life she had. She hasn't got the energy to live out a life that she once did. Her lifestyle is, wow, nothing what it used to be, really. I mean, she does get out of bed, and she does go to bed, so I guess that's pretty normal, but the contents in between are just, it's kind of just, she despairs. It's been tough, and it needn't have to have been this tough.